Hey there, folks. Imagine this. It's the mid-1990s, the era of blockbuster video stores, pagers beeping everywhere, and that unmistakable grunge rock blasting from boomboxes. Now, throw in a powerhouse of a woman discovering her true potential amid interstellar battles, high-flying action, and a dash of humor that ties right into the heart of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's the magic of Captain Marvel, the 2019 film that not only shattered box office records, but also brought a fresh, empowering energy to the superhero genre. If you're wondering why you absolutely need to watch this movie, stick with me because I'm going to take you on a deep dive into everything that makes it so special. As your enthusiastic guide through this cinematic adventure, I'll share every little detail from its creation to its cultural impact. Now, all while convincing you that this is a must-see for anyone who loves epic stories, strong characters, and a good dose of nostalgia. Trust me, by the end, you'll be firing up your streaming service or grabbing that Blu-ray faster than a photon blast. Let's start with the basics that set the stage for why this film stands out. Captain Marvel hit theaters on March 8, 2019, right on International Women's Day, which was no accident. It was a bold statement about representation and strength. Directed by the talented duo Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, this was their first foray into the big-budget world of Marvel, coming from a background in indie films like Half Nelson and Mississippi Grind. These directors brought a unique, character-driven approach to the superhero formula, by focusing on emotional depth and human flaws amid all the cosmic spectacle. Anna and Ryan co-wrote the screenplay alongside Geneva Robertson-Doré, building on a story crafted by Nicole Perlman, Meg LaFauve, and themselves. It's this collaborative storytelling that gives the movie its heart, blending high-stakes action with personal growth in a way that feels authentic and inspiring. Produced by the legendary Kevin Feige under Marvel Studios and distributed by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures, the film clocks in at a brisk 123 minutes, plenty of time to immerse you in its world without dragging on. And with a PG-13 rating, it's perfect for families, teens, and adults alike, offering thrills that are intense but never gratuitous. Now, why should you watch it? Well, first off, Captain Marvel is a game-changer in the MCU. It's the first film in the franchise to be led by a female superhero, and it does so with unapologetic confidence. If you've ever felt like you needed a boost of motivation, this movie delivers it in spades. It's about resilience, identity, and pushing beyond limits, themes that resonate whether you're a longtime comic fan or a newcomer. Plus, set in 1995, it captures that retro vibe perfectly, with nods to classic action flicks like Terminator 2 and Top Gun, complete with era-specific tech, fashion, and music that will have you smiling in recognition. The action sequences are top-notch, blending practical stunts with cutting-edge visual effects that make you feel like you're soaring through space. And let's not forget how it ties into the larger MCU, without giving anything away. But it adds crucial layers to characters you already know and love, making rewatches of other films even more rewarding. In a world full of sequels and reboots, this one feels fresh, fun, and fiercely empowering. If you're tired of the same old hero tropes, Captain Marvel flips the script and shows what true power looks like, diving deeper into the production side, because knowing how this epic came together makes appreciating it even better. The budget for Captain Marvel was reported between $152 and $175 million. Sources vary slightly, but let's settle on around $160 million as a solid estimate. That's a hefty investment, but it paid off big time, as the film grossed over $1.1 billion worldwide, with $426.8 million in the US and Canada alone, and a staggering $704.8 million internationally. It became the first female-led superhero movie to cross the billion-dollar mark, ranking as the fifth highest-grossing film of 2019 and proving that audiences crave diverse stories. The opening weekend was massive, $153.4 million domestically and a global debut of $456.7 million, making it one of the biggest launches for any MCU solo film. This success wasn't just about numbers. It highlighted a shift in Hollywood, showing that films centered on women can dominate the box office just as much as any other blockbuster. The journey to bring Captain Marvel to life started way back in May 2013, when Marvel began developing the project as part of their push for more inclusive storytelling. By October 2014, it was officially announced as the studio's first female-led superhero film, with an initial release date set for July 2018. But to perfect it, they shifted it first to November 2018 and then to March 2019, allowing more time for polishing. Early script drafts came from Nicole Perlman, known for her work on Guardians of the Galaxy, and Meg LaFauve, who brought her experience from Pixar's Inside Out. They drew inspiration from the 1971 comic arc Kree-Skrull War by Roy Thomas, weaving in elements of interstellar conflict while grounding it in Carol Danvers' human origins. Geneva Robertson-Dworet, fresh off Tomb Raider, joined to refine the screenplay, ensuring it avoided cliches like those in Green Lantern by emphasizing Carol's uniqueness and femininity as strengths, not weaknesses. The directors, Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, were chosen in April 2017 for their ability to handle intimate character moments within a grand scale. They influenced the tone with references to 1990s action classics like RoboCop and The French Connection, aiming for a blend of spectacle and soul. Consultants like comic writer Kelly Sue DeConnick and quantum physicist Spyridon Mikalakis helped shape the science and lore, making sure everything felt authentic to the Marvel Universe. When it came to casting, Marvel assembled a stellar ensemble that brings so much life to the screen. Leading the charge is Brie Larson as Carol Danvers, also known as Vers and ultimately Captain Marvel. Brie, an Oscar winner for Room, trained rigorously for 9 months, learning judo, boxing, and wrestling, and even consulted with real Air Force pilots like Brigadier General Jeannie Leavitt to nail the pilot's mindset. She portrays Carol as a flawed, aggressive, truth-seeking hero who's part human, part Kree, balancing emotion with stoic warrior training. Young versions of Carol are played by McKenna Grace at 13 years old and London Fuller at 6, adding layers to her backstory. Samuel L. Jackson reprises his role as Nick Fury, but this is a younger, less jaded version, a low-level SHIELD bureaucrat without his iconic eye patch. To achieve that, they used groundbreaking digital de-aging technology, making Sam look 25 years younger throughout the entire film, a first for such extensive use in a movie. Sam described Fury here as someone just learning about superpowered threats, which adds a fun, wide-eyed dynamic to his character. Then there's Ben Mendelsohn as Talos, the shape-shifting Skrull leader, and also as Keller, Fury's boss in disguise. Ben, known for Rogue One, but used his native Australian accent for Talos and an American one inspired by Donald Rumsfeld for Keller. The makeup process took hours each day, but it paid off in creating these alien beings that feel real and multifaceted. Jimon Hounsou returns as Korath, the Kree swordsman and Starforce second-in-command, portrayed as humorless and dedicated. Lee Pace is back as Ronan the Accuser, a high-ranking Kree official who's not yet the full radical we see later in the MCU. It's a fascinating glimpse into his early days. Lashana Lynch shines as Maria Rambeau, Carol's best friend and fellow Air Force pilot nicknamed Photon. Lashana consulted with pilot mothers to capture the resilience of a single mom in a high-stakes job. Gemma Chan plays Minerva, the Kree sniper in Starforce, who's a bit threatened by Carol's arrival, by bringing a sharp edge to the team dynamics. Annette Bening takes on dual roles as the Supreme Intelligence, the AI ruler of the Kree that appears differently to each person, and as Mar-Vell, disguised as Dr. Wendy Lawson, a human scientist. This was a clever gender swap from the comics, providing a strong female mentor figure for Carol. Clark Gregg reprises Agent Phil Coulson, another de-aged character who's a rookie here, less world-weary and more idealistic. Jude Law is Jan Rogg, the Starforce commander and Carol's mentor, a devout warrior who's inspirational but carries tension with his team. Jude signed on for one picture and wished for more humor in the role, but his performance adds gravitas. Supporting cast includes Algenis Perez Soto as Atlas, the Starforce marksman, Rune Tempt as Bronchar, the burly fighter, and Akira Akbar as 11-year-old Monica Rambeau, Maria's daughter, with younger versions by Azari Akbar. There's also Sharon Blynn as Soren, Talos' wife, the Ophuls twins as young Skrull daughter Gaia, Robert Kaczynski as a biker called the Don, and more like Vic Sahay as Torfin, Chukwumodu as Solar, Colin Ford as Steve Danvers, Carol's brother, and Kenneth Mitchell as her father. And we can't forget Goose, the adorable cat who's actually a flurkin in disguise, renamed from Chewie in the comics to homage Top Gun's Nick "Goose" Bradshaw. Goose was played by 4 cats: Reggie, the hero cat, Archie, Rizzo, and Gonzo, each specializing in different behaviors like cuddling or staring. Brie Larson is allergic to cats, so they used a puppet for some scenes, but the real cats stole the show. Interim real Air Force pilots Matthew Spider Kimmel and Stephen Cajun Del Bagno appear as themselves, and the film is dedicated to Del Bagno, who tragically passed away during production. Cameos include comic creator Kelly Sue DeConnick and a touching posthumous appearance by Stan Lee, who gets a special tribute in the Marvel logo sequence, his first after passing. Filming was an adventure in itself, kicking off with location shoots in January 2018 around Los Angeles for those iconic 90s scenes. Principal photography ran from March 19th to July 6, 2018, primarily at Sony Studios in Los Angeles under the working title Open World. They filmed carnival scenes in Oxnard, forest sequences at Shaver Lake in May, and wrapped up in Baton Rouge and New Orleans in June. Other spots included Simi Valley for desert vibes, on Edwards Air Force Base for authentic military feel, and Lucerne Valley. Cinematographer Ben Davis used Arri Alexa 65 cameras with custom Panavision lenses to give it that distinct 1990s film look, grainy, vibrant, and immersive. The production boosted California's film industry by 11.7% that year, thanks to tax incentives. Challenges included coordinating massive sets, like the orbiting lab, and ensuring the 90s authenticity with props like old computers and payphones. They even shared sets with the TV show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., sneaking in some Easter eggs for fans. Post-production was where the magic really happened. Additional photography took place from November 2018 to February 2019 to fine-tune scenes. Editors Elliot Graham and Debbie Berman worked on Avid Media Composer to shape the narrative, non-balancing action with quieter moments. Visual effects were handled by a powerhouse team: Industrial Light and Magic for space battles, Digital Domain for Skrull transformations, Framestore, Animal Logic for the Supreme Intelligence's fractal designs, inspired by the Louvre, Lola VFX for that incredible de-aging on Samuel L. Jackson and Clark Gregg, based on references like Jackson's 1997 film 187, using Autodesk Flame software. Luma Pictures tackled the thrilling train chase, Trickster and ILM brought Goose's flirkin abilities to life, and Cantina Creative handled other digital touches. It was a massive effort, with over 2,000 VFX shots, ensuring the cosmic elements felt grounded and believable. The music elevates everything, composed by Pinar Toprak, the first woman to score an MCU film, announced in June 2018. She created distinct themes for Carol, the Kree, and Skrulls, incorporating Alan Silvestri's Avengers motif and even a fanfare by Michael Giacchino. The soundtrack features 90s hits like Nirvana's Come As You Are, Garbage's Only Happy When It Rains, Hole's Celebrity Skin, Elastica's Connection, No Doubt's Just a Girl, Desiree's You Gotta Be, and REM's Man on the Moon, perfectly timed to amp up the energy without overpowering the story. Rumors swirled about Giacchino replacing her, but he just assisted on some cues due to scheduling. Marketing was clever and inclusive, building hype from the get-go. The first trailer dropped in September 2018 during Good Morning America, set at the National Air and Space Museum for that aviation nod. The second came in December on Monday Night Football, teasing more action. Young concept art debuted at San Diego Comic-Con 2017, and by 2018, panels at Brazil Comic-Con and more trailers kept the buzz going. A Super Bowl 53 spot emphasized higher, further, faster, Carol's motto. Tie-ins included an Alaska Airlines jet painted with Captain Marvel themes, a YouTube livestream of Goose the Cat, and the hashtag Captain Marvel Challenge on GoFundMe, raising funds to send girls from Girls Inc. to see the film. Press tours highlighted diversity, with Brie Larson pushing for inclusive journalism. Despite some online trolling and review bombing on sites like Rotten Tomatoes, where bots tried to tank the audience score pre-release, Marvel adjusted policies to combat it, proving the film's resilience mirrored its hero. The premiere was glamorous, February 27, 2019, in London, followed by Hollywood on March 4th. Released in IMAX and 3D, it rolled out globally, including a strong showing in China. Home release came on digital May 28, 2019, and Blu-ray June 11th, with extras like deleted scenes, featurettes on the directors, and a gag reel. It later streamed on Disney Plus with an enhanced IMAX aspect ratio in 2021, letting fans relive it in widescreen glory. Reception-wise, Captain Marvel earned solid praise, holding a 79% on Rotten Tomatoes from 552 reviews, with a 6.8 out of 10 average. Critics called it a crowd-pleasing origin story with strong action, humor, and a fresh take on the formula, particularly lauding Brie Larson's charismatic performance and the director's indie touch. Metacritic gave it 64 out of 100, indicating generally favorable reviews. Outlets like the New York Times highlighted its empowerment themes. Variety praised the 90s nostalgia. And the Los Angeles Times noted how it invigorates the MCU. Some critiques mentioned a convoluted plot or lack of originality, but overall it was seen as a solid entry. Audience response was enthusiastic, an A cinema score, with 73% recommending it. The review bombing dropped the initial audience score to 33%, but it rebounded as genuine fans weighed in, showing the power of community over negativity. On the awards front, it racked up 10 wins and 56 nominations. Highlights include wins at the ASCAP Top Box Office Films, Golden Trailer Awards for Best Fantasy Adventure Poster and Home Entertainment Action, and the Nebula Award for Best Dramatic Presentation. Nominations spanned the AACTA International Awards for Visual Effects, Costume Designers Guild for Sci-Fi/Fantasy, Hollywood Critics Association for Best Action/War Film and Blockbuster, Hugo Awards for Best Dramatic Presentation Long Form, Makeup Artists and Hairstylists Guild for Special Makeup Effects, MTV Movie and TV Awards, where it won Best Fight and was nominated for Best Hero and Musical Moment, National Film and TV Awards for Best Actress, twice, and Action Movie, People's Choice for Movie, Action Movie and Stars, Saturn Awards for Best Comic to Film, Actress and Director, and Teen Choice for Action Movie, Actress, twice, Actor, and Villain. It also earned the Reframe stamp for gender-balanced production, underscoring its commitment to diversity. Sprinkled throughout are fun trivia bits that make the film even more endearing. For instance, the de-aging tech was a MCU first for an entire character's appearance. Nogs evolving from brief uses in previous films. Goose's name changed from Chewie-honored Top Gun, fitting the pilot theme. The film tributes Stan Lee with the opening logo showing his cameos, and it's his first posthumous appearance. Real military involvement included a Thunderbirds flyover at the premiere and dedication to pilot Stephen Del Bagno. Early scripts had Talos dying, but that changed for a more nuanced story. Jude Law almost saw Keanu Reeves in his role, but it went to him. Brie's allergy meant cat puppets in some shots, and the 4 cats each had jobs like being held or running. The Supreme Intelligence's design drew from fractals and art museums, while Skrull makeup took 3 hours per application. Shared MCU lore includes the Tesseract's involvement, linking to broader stories. And despite backlash, Brie aimed to create lasting art, succeeding in inspiring a new generation. If you're still here with me after that deep dive into Captain Marvel's world, let's keep the energy going because there's so much more to unpack about why this 2019 gem is worth your time. Every single frame, every behind-the-scenes secret, every little detail that makes it pop. Picture this. You're settling in for a 25-minute ride where I, your passionate narrator, walk you through even more layers of this film. No spoilers, just pure excitement about what makes Captain Marvel not just good, but genuinely special. Whether you're rewatching it for the 10th time or about to hit play for the first, these extra insights will make it hit even harder. Let's jump right back in and explore the visual effects wizardry, the deleted moments that almost made it, more trivia gems, the full awards haul, and why this movie's legacy keeps soaring. One of the biggest reasons to watch Captain Marvel is how breathtakingly it looks, especially in those cosmic sequences where space feels alive and dangerous. The visual effects team pulled off something extraordinary here. Overall, VFX supervision came from Christopher Townsend, who worked closely with Marvel to blend practical stunts with digital magic seamlessly. Over 2,000 shots needed effects work, handled by a dream team of studios. Industrial Light and Magic tackled massive space battles and environments, creating those epic starfields and ship dogfights that make you feel the speed and scale. Digital Domain, led by supervisor Dave Hodgins and a crew of about 100 artists, delivered over 125 shots, including key transformations, energy blasts, and character enhancements that bring the powers to life without ever feeling fake. Trickster handled intricate sequences like shape-shifting aliens and high-tech interfaces, while other houses like Rise, Framestore, Animal Logic, Luma Pictures, and Lola VFX chipped in on everything from the Supreme Intelligence's ethereal, fractal-inspired designs to the de-aging tech that turned back time on familiar faces. Speaking of de-aging, that was a groundbreaking achievement. Samuel L. Jackson and Clark Gregg got the full treatment. Entire performances digitally youthened using references from their earlier films, like Jackson in 187 from 1997. Autodesk Flame software helped blend it all so naturally that you forget you're watching a 1995 version of these icons. The goal was realism. No uncanny valley here. And practical elements grounded it too. Real explosions, wire work for flights, and on-set stunts where Brie Larson did as much as possible after her intense training. The mix creates that perfect balance, high-flying spectacle that feels earned and human. If you love movies where the effects serve the story instead of overwhelming it, this is a masterclass. Watch it in IMAX or on a big screen if you can. The enhanced aspect ratio on Disney Plus makes those wide cosmic shots even more immersive. Now, let's talk about those deleted scenes, because the home release extras are packed with them and they add such cool context without changing the core tale. One standout shows a different take on the Supreme Intelligence, more comics accurate with that massive green head vibe from the pages before they settled on Annette Bening's shape-shifting form. Another has Yon-Rogg confronting the Supreme Intelligence, who appears to him as a silver-haired version of himself. Talk about narcissistic. It's hilarious and revealing about his character. There's an extended bit with Talos disguised as Director Keller chasing after our heroes post-escape, ramping up the tension. A scene on the way to Torfa gives more banter between Starforce members, showing team dynamics. And yes, some trailer shots, like a certain motorcycle moment, didn't make the final cut, but they teased the action perfectly. The Blu-ray and digital versions include these, plus gag reels, featurettes on the director's vision, Brie's training montages, and tributes. Watching them after the film deepens your appreciation for the tight editing that kept the pace brisk at exactly 124 minutes, 2 hours and 4 minutes of non-stop momentum. No fluff. Trivia keeps pouring out the more you dig, and it's all part of what makes rewatches so rewarding. Did you know the Blockbuster store shootout originally featured a cutout of the Mask, with Vers mistaking the green face for a Skrull? Rights issues with Warner Brothers swapped it to Harry Tasker from True Lies, still a fun 90s nod. Stanley's cameo has him reciting lines from Mallrats while reading the script, pure meta joy, and the opening logo honors him posthumously since he passed during editing. Samuel L. Jackson improvised that cheeky sheet check moment with the Skrull. Brie's cat allergy meant puppet and CG goose in some shots, but the 4 real cats, Reggie, Archie, Rizzo, and Gonzo, nailed the cuddly chaos. Windows 98 appearing in 1995? A tiny timeline slip fans love spotting. The film even boosted California's economy with its shoot thanks to tax credits. Box office-wise, Captain Marvel didn't just succeed, it dominated. Final worldwide gross hit $1.131 billion, with $426.8 million domestic and $704.6 million international. Opening weekend crushed it at $153.4 million in North America and $456.7 million globally, one of the biggest ever for a female-led film. It crossed $1 billion in April 2019, becoming the first superhero movie starring a woman to do so, and ranked as 2019's 5th highest earner. Production and marketing costs around $300 million led to a net profit estimated at $414 million, huge validation for diverse leads. It proved audiences show up when the story and star shine. Awards poured in too, with 10 wins and 56 nominations total. Brie Larson earned nods for Best Actress at the Saturn Awards, MTV Movie and TV Awards, where it won Best Fight, Teen Choice, and more. The film snagged Best Comic-to-Film Motion Picture at the Saturns, plus wins at ASCAP for Top Box Office, Golden Trailers for Posters and Home Entertainment, and the Nebula for Dramatic Presentation. Hugo nomination for Long-Form Drama, Reframe Stamp for Gender Balance, and People's Choice, nods for movie, action, and stars. It was a critical and fan favorite despite some early online noise. The genuine love won out. If you've been following along with me on this epic journey through the world of Captain Marvel, the 2019 blockbuster that redefined what a superhero origin story could be, then you know we're not done yet. There's always more to uncover about this film that packs so much punch, visually, emotionally, and culturally. As your dedicated narrator, well, I'm here to keep the momentum going, sharing even more insights, behind-the-scenes nuggets, and reasons why this movie deserves a spot in your watch list or a rewatch marathon. Think of it as extending our chat over a virtual coffee, diving deeper into the elements that make Captain Marvel not just entertaining, but truly timeless. Whether you're a Marvel diehard or someone dipping their toes into the universe, these details will have you appreciating the craft even more. Let's keep soaring higher, further, faster, with more on the themes, the cultural ripple effects, comparisons to other films, and those little Easter eggs that reward eagle-eyed viewers. One of the standout reasons to watch Captain Marvel is how it weaves in profound themes without ever feeling preachy. At its core, this is a story about self-discovery and reclaiming your power, finding out who you are when the world tries to tell you otherwise. It's empowering, sure, but in a way that's universal. We've all had moments where we've doubted ourselves or been held back by expectations. The film explores identity through Carol's journey, blending her human roots with something larger than life, and it does so with a mix of heart and high-octane action. Friendship plays a huge role, too. Those bonds that lift you up, like the one between Carol and Maria Rambeau, which feels so genuine and rooted in real-life camaraderie. And then there's the theme of questioning authority, challenging the status quo, which adds a layer of intrigue to the interstellar conflicts. All this is set against a backdrop of 1990s culture. I'm making it a nostalgic trip that comments on progress and perseverance. If you're looking for a film that motivates you to stand tall and own your strength, this is it. It leaves you inspired, ready to tackle your own battles, big or small. Culturally, Captain Marvel made waves that are still rippling through Hollywood and beyond. Released on International Women's Day, it wasn't just timing, it was a statement. Brie Larson's portrayal of Carol Danvers became a symbol for young girls and women everywhere, showing that heroes come in all forms and that strength isn't about perfection, but persistence. The film sparked conversations about representation. Finally, a solo female-led MCU entry after 20 films. And it didn't disappoint. And it influenced everything from merchandise, like those iconic bomber jackets and action figures, to real-world initiatives. Remember the hashtag Captain Marvel Challenge? That GoFundMe campaign raised thousands to send underserved girls to theaters, turning the movie into a movement for empowerment. And despite some pre-release backlash from online trolls trying to undermine it with review bombing, the film triumphed, proving that authenticity wins. It opened doors for more diverse stories in the MCU, like Black Widow, Shang-Chi, and Eternals, showing studios that inclusivity isn't a risk, it's a recipe for success. Watching it now, especially in 2026, you can see how it shifted the landscape, making superhero films more reflective of the world we live in. Let's compare it to other MCU films to see why it holds its own uniquely. Unlike Iron Man, which kicked off the universe with tech-savvy charm, Captain Marvel brings a cosmic scale right from the start, blending space opera with earthbound heart. It echoes Guardians of the Galaxy in its humor and soundtrack vibes, but with a more grounded emotional core. Think less ragtag misfits, more personal evolution. Compared to Wonder Woman, another trailblazing female-led hero flick, Captain Marvel amps up the sci-fi elements and 90s flair, while both share that theme of a warrior discovering her humanity. It's not as dark as some entries like Captain America, Civil War, but it has that same sense of building toward bigger stakes, fitting perfectly between Infinity War and Endgame without feeling like filler. The pacing is snappier than some origin stories, like Doctor Strange, much avoiding lengthy training montages by jumping into the action while revealing backstory organically. If you love the interconnectedness of the MCU, this one rewards you with ties to Avengers lore, the Tesseract's role, early SHIELD dynamics, and hints at future threats. It's a bridge film done right, standalone fun with universe-expanding depth. Diving into more production trivia, because these stories behind the story make the final product shine brighter. The costume design, led by Sanja Milkovich-Hayes, was meticulous. Carol's suit evolves from Kree green to that bold red, blue, and gold, inspired by comic artist Jamie McKelvey's modern take. They used practical fabrics for authenticity, with Brie's input ensuring it felt functional for a pilot-turned-hero. The Skrull designs drew from reptilian textures, with over 100 variations to make each alien unique. Sound design by Christopher Boyes and his team captured everything from photon blasts, a mix of electricity and whooshes, to the hum of Kree tech, using Foley artists for those punchy fight sounds. The score's recording happened at Abbey Road Studios in London, with a 90-piece orchestra bringing Pinar Toprak's themes to life. Her Carol motif starts subtle and builds to triumphant, mirroring the character's arc. And those 90s Easter eggs. From pagers and dial-up internet to references like the Fresh Prince lunchbox and Fonzie statue, they were sourced authentically to evoke the era without parody. More on the cast's preparation adds flavor. Lashana Lynch shadowed female pilots to capture Maria's poise under pressure, emphasizing the challenges of being a black woman in aviation. Ben Mendelsohn practiced his accents obsessively, switching seamlessly between Aussie Skrull and American bureaucrat. Jude Law trained in martial arts to embody Jan Rog's precision, drawing from military drills. Annette Bening, at 60, handled dual roles with grace, consulting on quantum physics for her scientist side. The young actors, like Akira Akbar as Monica, brought innocence and spunk, with scenes improvised for natural flow. Even the animals, those 4 cats for Goose, underwent training with handlers to perform tricks like jumping or purring on cue. Challenges during filming included weather delays in the Sierra Nevada for outdoor shoots and coordinating massive crowd scenes for the premiere flyovers by the Air Force Thunderbirds. Post-release, the film's impact extended to merchandise and spin-offs. Toys like Lego sets of the Quinjet chase and Funko Pops of Carol in her bomber jacket flew off shelves. Comics saw a surge. Kelly Sue DeConnick's run got reprints, introducing new fans to the source material. The sequel, The Marvels, built directly on this foundation, teaming Carol with Monica Rambeau, now grown and powered, and Ms. Marvel expanding the family dynamic. Video games like Marvel's Avengers included Captain Marvel as a playable character, with moves inspired by the film's fights. And in pop culture, memes from Goose's antics to higher, further, faster quotes became staples. If you're into fan theories, this film sparks plenty. Connections to agents of SHIELD, hints at multiverse elements, and debates on power levels that keep forums buzzing. Wrapping up this extended breakdown, but honestly, we could talk Captain Marvel all day, it's that rich. From the stellar direction by Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, who infused indie soul into blockbuster scale, to the billion-dollar success that shattered glass ceilings, this movie is a triumph. The budget of around $160 million translated to visuals that still hold up, effects that wow, and a story that sticks with you. Whether it's the empowering themes, the killer 90s soundtrack, the laugh-out-loud moments with a younger Nick Fury, or the sheer spectacle of spacefaring heroics, there's something for everyone. If you haven't watched it yet, make it your next movie night. Stream it, buy it, experience it. We're still rolling on this ultimate love letter to Captain Marvel, the 2019 film that lit up screens, broke barriers, and reminded us all why superhero stories can be so damn uplifting. If you've been hanging with me through the production deep dives, the Easter eggs, the box office triumphs, and those empowering themes, then buckle up, because there's even more gold to mine from this cosmic adventure. As your go-to narrator, I'm thrilled to keep unpacking why this movie is a total must-watch. Whether it's the hidden comic nods, the clever production choices, the heartfelt tributes, or just those perfect little moments that make you grin. No spoilers here, just pure enthusiasm to get you excited to hit play again or discover it for the first time. Let's dive into more trivia treasures, Easter egg breakdowns, behind-the-scenes secrets, and the lasting legacy that keeps this film flying high even years later. First off, let's geek out over some of the coolest Easter eggs and comic book references that reward fans without overwhelming newcomers. The movie is loaded with them, starting right from the opening Marvel Studios logo. It's the only 2019 MCU release to keep the classic fanfare, but they transformed it into a touching tribute to Stan Lee. His cameos flash across the screen in a montage honoring his legacy, since he passed away during post-production. It's emotional and fitting, especially because his on-screen cameo in the film has him on a train reading the script for Mallrats and reciting lines like, "Trust me, true believer," a meta-nod to his real-life persona and Kevin Smith's film, meaning Mallrats canonically exists in the MCU. Mind-blowing, right? Then there's the blockbuster store scene. Pure 90s nostalgia heaven. Verse blasts a cardboard cutout, but originally it was supposed to be The Mask, that green face mistaken for a Skrull. But rights issues with Warner Brothers swapped it to Harry Tasker from True Lies. It's a fun pivot that still fits the era perfectly. Another gem. When Carol crashes through Los Angeles, she bumps into a woman on the train platform. That's Kelly Sue DeConnick, the comic writer who revitalized the Captain Marvel character in the 2000s and 10s and turned her into the powerhouse we see today. Her cameo is a quiet thank you to the source material that shaped the film. Speaking of comics accuracy, the Supreme Intelligence's design in the final cut uses Annette Bening's form shifting to appear as someone respected by the viewer, smart and personal. But a deleted scene shows a more traditional comics version, that massive green, then disembodied head floating in a tube. It's wild seeing what could have been, and it pops up in the home release extras for fans who love spotting those changes. The Tesseract plays a big role too, tying back to earlier MCU films and explaining its journey through the timeline. It's one of those connective threads that makes rewatching the whole saga so satisfying. More fun production secrets. Brie Larson's cat allergy meant goose scenes often used a puppet or CGI, but the 4 real cats, Reggie as the main star, plus Archie, Rizzo, and Gonzo, handled the cuddly bits brilliantly. Samuel L. Jackson improvised that cheeky moment checking under the sheet on the Skrull, classic Fury humor. But then get this, a kissing scene between Carol and Yon-Rogg was filmed but cut because it felt demeaning to her strength and raised concerns about glorifying certain dynamics. They kept a funny line from it, "You kiss like a horse," in a memory sequence. Smart editing that kept the focus on empowerment. Deleted scenes on the Blu-ray and digital extras are gold mines too. There's Who Do You Admire Above All Others, where Yon-Rogg gets grilled by the Supreme Intelligence about his leadership, adds tension to his character. Star Force Recruits shows him indoctrinating new Kree warriors with propaganda about the Skrulls. Heading to Torfa has banter among the team en route to the mission, lighthearted team vibes. What No Smile is an alternate take on a biker encounter with more sass. And that comics-accurate Supreme Intelligence scene gives a trippy, old-school feel. The gag reel is hilarious too, flubs, props going wrong, and Goose stealing the show. These extras make the home viewing experience even richer. On the trivia front, the film solved a long-standing MCU mystery, how Nick Fury lost his eye. No more teasing. It's right there, delivered with perfect comedic timing. The security guard Carol chats with early on? That's Marvel's real-life security director, Barry Curtis, in a blink-and-you-miss-it cameo. Windows 98 on a 1995 computer? A tiny anachronism fans love spotting for laughs. And the planet Torfa? It ties into comics lore with hints of resources like vibranium, subtle world-building that expands the universe. Box office-wise, nothing's changed in the years since. It still stands at over $1.131 billion worldwide, $426.8 million domestic, $704.6 million international, with that massive $153 million domestic opening weekend and $456 million global debut. Budget around $160 million plus marketing led to huge profits. Estimated net around $414 million back in 2019 reports. It was the first female-led superhero film to hit $1 billion, proving the demand for stories like this. Awards kept coming, too, from Saturn wins for Best Comic-to-Film Adaptation to MTV nods for Best Fight. Brie earned praise across the board. The legacy? In 2026, looking back, Captain Marvel feels even more pivotal. It paved the way for the Marvels in 2023, bringing back Carol alongside Monica and Kamala Khan in a family-focused team-up. It influenced how Marvel handles female heroes, strong, indie-flawed, and unapologetic. The 90s soundtrack still slaps on playlists, Goose memes live forever, and that higher, further, faster mantra inspires people daily. If you're feeling stuck or need a reminder of your own potential, this film delivers it with explosions, heart, and humor. Wow, we've been on quite the ride talking about Captain Marvel, the 2019 film that's equal parts cosmic explosion, 90s nostalgia bomb, and straight-up empowerment anthem. If you're still tuned in after all these details on the cast, production, Easter eggs, deleted scenes, and legacy, then let's keep the thrill alive. As your enthusiastic narrator, I'm loving sharing every last bit, because this movie has layers upon layers that make it endlessly rewatchable. Today we're digging into even more fascinating trivia, on those subtle and not-so-subtle nods that fans obsess over, some quirky behind-the-scenes stories, and how this film continues to echo through the MCU years later. No spoilers, just pure appreciation for what makes Captain Marvel such a standout. Grab your snacks, settle in, and let's explore why this one still feels fresh and inspiring in 2026. Let's kick things off with some of the most mind-blowing trivia that even hardcore fans sometimes miss. One of the biggest mysteries the film finally solved was the origin of Nick Fury's eye patch. For years, fans speculated about epic battles or high-tech mishaps, but the truth is hilariously grounded, thanks to a certain furry flurkin named Goose. That scratch from those claws? It leads to an infection that sticks around permanently. It's such a perfect blend of humor and payoff. I'm returning a long-teased question into one of the film's most memorable moments. And speaking of Goose, Brie Larson's real-life cat allergy meant the team had to get creative. Many of her scenes with the cat used a puppet or full CGI, while the four real felines, Reggie, Archie, Rizzo, and Gonzo, handled the adorable, non-contact bits like purring or staring contests. Reggie was the star cat, trained for those iconic cuddles. Another fun fact, the blockbuster shootout scene almost featured a different pop culture nod. The cardboard cutout Verse Blasts was originally planned to be the mask, with its green face mistaken for a Skrull disguise. But rights issues with Warner Brothers, Disney's rival, forced a switch to Harry Tasker from True Lies, Arnold Schwarzenegger's character. It still fits the 90s vibe perfectly. Oh, and it's one of those tiny changes that shows how much went into nailing the era. Then there's Stan Lee's cameo. He's on a train reading the script for Mallrats and reciting the line, "Trust me, true believer." That not only makes Mallrats canon in the MCU, but ties into Kevin Smith's world in a delightful way. Plus, the opening logo was retooled as a special tribute to Stan Lee after his passing during editing, montaging his cameos across the MCU. It's heartfelt and sets an emotional tone right from the start. More Easter eggs keep popping up the deeper you look. When Carol crashes through LA during the chase, she literally bumps into Kelly Sue DeConnick on the train platform, the comic writer who modernized the Captain Marvel character in the 2010s and made her the fierce, flight jacket-wearing icon we see today. It's a quiet, and a respectful nod to the source material. The Supreme Intelligence's design in the film uses Annette Bening's form to appear as someone Carol respects, but a deleted scene showed the classic comics version, that massive, floating green head in a tube. Seeing the contrast highlights how the filmmakers chose a more personal, human touch. And check this out. During Carol's memory flashes, there's a burning piano that ties into her past trauma, a subtle, recurring visual that adds emotional weight without explanation. The film's 90s authenticity is packed with little details, too. Carol picks up a VHS of the right stuff, nodding to her Air Force pilot roots and love of aviation history. My computer in one scene runs what looks like Windows 98, technically an anachronism since the movie's set in 1995 and that OS launched in 1998, but fans love spotting it as a harmless timeline slip. The Fonz lunchbox used to hide the Tesseract? Pure retro charm. Even the soundtrack choices, like Nirvana and No Doubt, weren't random. They were timed to amplify key emotional beats, making the era feel alive. Behind the scenes, the directors Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck brought their indie sensibilities to keep things grounded amid the spectacle. They referenced classics like RoboCop and the French Connection for tone, ensuring the action felt real and stakes personal. Brie Larson consulted with actual female Air Force pilots, including Brigadier General Jeannie Leavitt, to capture that fighter pilot mindset, confidence under pressure, but quick thinking and resilience. Lashana Lynch did the same for Maria Rambeau, shadowing pilot moms to portray a single mother balancing high-stakes duty with family. The de-aging tech on Samuel L. Jackson and Clark Gregg was revolutionary, using references from Jackson's 1997 film 187 to make Fury look convincingly younger throughout. It was the most extensive use of that tech at the time, and it holds up incredibly well. Deleted scenes from the home release add even more flavor. Who do you admire above all others? Has Jan Rog facing the Supreme Intelligence's scrutiny over his leadership, more insight into his pressures. Starforce Recruits shows him indoctrinating Kree kids with anti-Skrull propaganda, complete with Carol's quips adding levity. Heading to Torfa features team banter en route to the mission, on highlighting camaraderie. What? No Smile? Is an alternate biker encounter with extra sass, playing on outdated expectations. One scene had Carol stealing a motorcycle after a confrontation, cut for pacing, but it showed her no-nonsense attitude. These extras, plus the gag reel full of flubs and goose chaos, make the Blu-ray a must-have for fans. The legacy in 2026? Captain Marvel remains a cornerstone. It was the first female-led MCU solo film, the first with a female co-director, and it shattered the billion-dollar barrier for women-fronted superhero movies. That success paved the way for more inclusive stories. Think the Marvels teaming Carol with Monica and Kamala, or broader pushes for diverse heroes. It sparked real-world impact too, like the hashtag Captain Marvel Challenge raising funds to get girls to theaters. Brie Larson has spoken about how the role redefined not just her career, but her sense of purpose, inspiring a generation to embrace their power. Even with evolving MCU phases, this film's themes of identity, friendship, and breaking limits feel timeless. It proved audiences crave strong, complex female leads, influencing everything from casting to storytelling. If there's one thing that ties it all together, it's how Captain Marvel balances spectacle with heart. The photon blasts are dazzling, the space battles epic, but it's the personal moments. Carol reclaiming her memories, Fury's wide-eyed wonder, Maria's unwavering support, that stick with you. It's funny, fierce, and feels good without being cheesy. In a franchise full of interconnected epics, this one stands tall as a character-driven origin that empowers everyone watching. And if you've been riding along with me through this massive celebration of Captain Marvel, the 2019 blockbuster that brought cosmic power, 90s vibes, and real heart to the big screen, then you already know there's always more to discover. As your friendly narrator, I'm excited to keep going because this film is packed with so many rich details that make every viewing feel brand new. We're talking deeper dives into the soundtrack magic, the marketing genius that built the hype, how it performed around the world, fan reactions that shaped its reputation, and even more quirky production stories that show just how much love went into every frame. Whether you're gearing up for a rewatch or finally ready to experience it, these insights will make you appreciate Captain Marvel even more and remind you why it's such an essential MCU adventure. Whoa, let's start with the soundtrack because the music in this movie is straight fire and perfectly woven into the story. Pinar Toprak made history as the first woman to compose a solo MCU film, and her work is phenomenal. She crafted a soaring, heroic theme for Carol that starts restrained and builds to epic proportions, perfectly mirroring her growth. The Kree get a militaristic, intense sound, while the Skrulls have something more mysterious and shape-shifting. Toprak even incorporated Alan Silvestri's classic Avengers theme and a little fanfare from Michael Giacchino for that connective MCU feel. The needle drop songs from the 90s are timed brilliantly. Nirvana's Come As You Are kicks things off with attitude. Garbage's Only Happy When It Rains adds grit during a key moment. Hole's Celebrity Skin brings raw energy. Is Elastica's Connection amps up the chase vibes. No Doubt's Just a Girl hits with perfect irony and girl power sass. Des'ree's You Gotta Be delivers motivation, and REM's Man on the Moon gives that reflective wonder. Every track feels earned, never forced, and the score holds its own against these hits, creating an unforgettable audio experience that makes the 90s setting come alive. The marketing campaign was clever, inclusive, and massive. The first trailer dropped in September 2018 during Good Morning America at the Air and Space Museum for that pilot connection. The second landed during Monday Night Football in December, teasing more action and mystery. Marvel went big with a Super Bowl 53 ad that hammered home higher, further, faster, Carol's empowering motto. They had panels at San Diego Comic-Con, Brazil Comic-Con, and more, plus an Alaska Airlines plane wrapped in Captain Marvel livery that flew across the country. The Goose the Cat livestream on YouTube was adorable genius, and the hashtag Captain Marvel Challenge on GoFundMe raised serious money to send girls from Girls Inc. to see the film. Press tours focused on diversity, with Brie Larson advocating for more women and underrepresented critics in the room. Despite some toxic online review bombing attempts before release, where bots tried to tank the Rotten Tomatoes audience score from the start, Marvel updated their policies to fight it, and genuine fans rallied, pushing the real score up fast. Internationally, the film crushed it too. China was huge, contributing over $154 million, making it one of the top Western films there that year. Strong showings in the UK, Brazil, Mexico, and South Korea helped push the international total to $704.6 million. The global opening weekend of $456.7 million was record-breaking for a female-led superhero movie. Home media did well too. Digital release on May 28, 2019, followed by Blu-ray and DVD on June 11th with tons of bonus features. It later became a Disney Plus staple, and in 2021 they released an IMAX-enhanced version with that wider aspect ratio for the space scenes, giving fans a premium relive experience. Fan reactions have been passionate and lasting. Most audiences loved the humor, the action, Brie's confident performance, the 90s nostalgia, and that emotional core. Cinema score was a strong A, and many called it refreshing after the heavy Infinity War. The review bombing drama actually backfired, turning into a story about standing up to toxicity, which only made the positive word of mouth stronger. At conventions, cosplay of Carol in her leather jacket, star-spangled suit, and bomber jacket versions is everywhere. Goose costumes are a hit with families, and kids quote, "higher, further, faster, more" constantly. The film inspired fan art, fanfics, and even real-world pilot recruitment interest among women. More behind-the-scenes gems. The costume went through many iterations, starting very close to the comics before settling on the iconic red-blue-gold with the star and that practical leather jacket for the Earth scenes. Makeup for the Skrulls took up to 3 hours daily per actor, with Ben Mendelsohn enduring long sessions but loving the character work. The train sequence combined real locations, practical stunts, and heavy VFX for the energy blasts and crashes. Even the pager technology was sourced from actual 90s models to get the beeps and screens right. Directors Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck insisted on practical locations whenever possible, shooting at real Air Force bases and forests to keep the grounded feel. If you've stuck with me this long through our epic, no-holds-barred love fest for Captain Marvel, the 2019 MCU masterpiece that's got cosmic stakes, killer 90s nostalgia, and that unbreakable spirit, then you're basically family at this point. As your hype narrator, I'm not letting this conversation land just yet, because there's still so much awesome stuff bubbling under the surface that makes this film shine brighter every time you think about it. We're talking more mind-blowing trivia, those hidden production quirks, the real scoop on how Goose became the ultimate scene stealer, deeper soundtrack love, and how the movie's impact feels even stronger looking back from 2026. No spoilers, just straight-up reasons to keep this gem on repeat and why it's one of the most rewatchable entries in the whole MCU. Let's keep the energy blasting. One of the absolute highlights that keeps fans coming back is Goose, the orange tabby who's way more than he seems. In the comics, that character was called Chewie, a direct Star Wars nod, but the filmmakers flipped it to Goose as a tribute to Nick Goose Bradshaw from Top Gun, tying perfectly into Carol's pilot background. And get this, Goose wasn't played by just one cat. 4 feline actors brought him to life. Reggie was the main hero cat, the chill superstar who nailed those cuddly close-ups and scene-stealing stares. Then there were Gonzo, Rizzo, mine and Archie stepping in as his stunt doubles for different behaviors like jumping, running, or just being adorably chaotic. Reggie, rescued at age 2, was super laid back and loved action shots plus his chicken treats. Total pro. Brie Larson being allergic to cats meant the team got super creative. Puppets and CGI handled a lot of her direct interactions, but the real cats stole every moment they were on screen. That little guy, or guys, turned into a cultural icon. Memes, plushies, even his own YouTube livestream during promo that racked up views like crazy. If you haven't laughed out loud at Goose's antics yet, you're in for a treat. More trivia that adds such cool layers. Samuel L. Jackson straight up improvised that cheeky moment where Fury peeks under the sheet on the Skrull. Classic ad-lib that landed perfectly and became one of the film's funniest beats. The blockbuster cutout gag? Originally set to be the mask's green face for a Skrull mix-up, but Warner Brothers' rights blocked it, so they swapped to Arnold Schwarzenegger's Harry Tasker from True Lies. Still nails the 90s action vibe without missing a beat. And that burning piano flashing in Carol's memories? It's this haunting, recurring visual that ties into her past trauma, adding quiet, emotional depth amid all the explosions. The Fonz lunchbox hiding the Tesseract? Pure retro gold. And fans love debating what other 90s relics could have made the cut. Behind the scenes, the 75-day shoot was a massive effort. Mostly in Los Angeles to keep things grounded and real. Locations like actual Air Force bases for authenticity, forests for those tense sequences, and even sharing space with other Marvel projects for sneaky crossovers. Directors Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck pushed for practical stunts wherever possible, with Brie doing a ton of her own fight work after 9 months of intense training in judo, boxing, and more. She even shadowed real pilots to capture that cocky yet capable Air Force energy. The whole team referenced 90s action classics to blend spectacle with soul. No wonder the film feels so lived in and fun. The deleted scenes we talked about before? They keep giving. Stuff like Jan Rog getting grilled by the Supreme Intelligence on his leadership, or the Star Force recruits scene showing Kree propaganda in action. Behind Heading to Torfa has great team banter that fleshes out the dynamics. One alternate had more motorcycle sass after a confrontation. All that extra footage clocks in around 26 minutes on the home release, plus featurettes on de-aging tech, references, and bloopers that show how much fun the cast had. The gag reel is gold, flubs, props failing, and Goose being, well, Goose. Soundtrack-wise, Pinar Toprak's score is a triumph. Her themes for Carol build from subtle to triumphant, weaving in MCU motifs while standing strong. Those 90s tracks? They hit at just the right emotional peaks, from Nirvana kicking off with Edge to No Doubt's Just a Girl landing that perfect ironic punch. Fans still playlist them years later because they capture the era and the empowerment so well. Fan reception in 2026? It's aged like fine wine. And the initial online noise faded fast as people actually watched and loved the humor, heart, and Brie's powerhouse performance. It inspired so many, young girls seeing themselves as heroes, pilots getting recruitment boosts from the aviation love. The billion-dollar haul proved the point, and its legacy ties right into later MCU stories with family vibes and cosmic threats. It's foundational, without feeling dated. We're deep into this endless celebration of Captain Marvel, the 2019 film that's got that perfect mix of high-flying action, killer nostalgia, and straight-up inspiring vibes. If you've been hanging out with me through all the cast breakdowns, production secrets, goose worship, Easter eggs, and legacy talk, then let's keep the party going because there's still a treasure trove of cool facts, quirky details, and reasons this movie feels timeless. As your super enthusiastic narrator, I'm here to drop even more gems that make rewatching it an absolute blast. Whether you're binging the MCU or just craving some feel-good hero energy, these bits will have you grinning from ear to ear. Let's blast off with more trivia, hidden nods, and why Captain Marvel still rules in 2026. One of the film's most iconic moments involves Goose the cat, our furry flirkin' friend who's way more dangerous and adorable than he looks. In the comics, this character was named Chewie after the Star Wars Wookiee, but the filmmakers changed it to Goose as a direct homage to Nick Goose Bradshaw from Top Gun, tying beautifully into Carol's fighter pilot roots and the 80s/90s aviation theme. Goose is actually a female cat in the movie. just like in the source material where flurkins are often portrayed that way. The team used 4 real orange tabby cats to bring her to life. Reggie was the main star, the chill, treat-loving pro who nailed those cuddly stares and close-ups. Gonzo, Rizzo, and Archie jumped in as backups for running, jumping, or chaotic energy. Brie Larson's cat allergy meant puppets and CGI handled her direct contact scenes, but the real cats delivered pure magic on screen. Fun fact, Kevin Feige himself pushed for 200% more Goose after seeing early outlines, and it paid off big time. Goose became a viral sensation, with memes, plush toys, and even a promotional YouTube livestream that had fans glued. That post-credits hairball scene? Chef's kiss. Pure comedy gold that hides the Tesseract perfectly. Speaking of hidden details, the movie is loaded with subtle and not-so-subtle nods that reward repeat views. Take the blockbuster shootout. The cardboard cutout Vers blasts was originally planned to be Jim Carrey's The Mask, green face mistaken for a Skrull. But Warner Brothers' rights issues, Disney's rival, forced the switch to Arnold Schwarzenegger's Harry Tasker from True Lies. Still fits the 90s action homage vibe flawlessly. Samuel L. Jackson improvised the hilarious sheet check on the Skrull, classic Fury cheekiness that made the cut. And that burning piano popping up in Carol's memory flashes? It's a recurring visual symbol of her trauma, adding quiet, emotional punch without words. The Fonz lunchbox hiding the Tesseract? Total retro charm that fans adore. Even the mindfrack memory probe sequence drew inspiration from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and giving it that trippy, disorienting feel during the Skrull interrogations. More production trivia that shows the care put in. A kissing scene between Carol and Jan Rog was filmed but scrapped because it felt demeaning to her power and raised concerns about dynamics. It was cut to keep her strength front and center, though a funny line, "You kiss like a horse," survived in a memory trance moment. The ending got tweaked in reshoots. Originally, Carol flew off solo into space, but editors felt it was too lonely after reuniting with her family. So they added shots of Talos and the Skrull refugees following in their ship, giving her departure more resonance and showing she's not alone on her mission. Deleted scenes like Jan Rog facing supreme intelligence scrutiny over his leadership or the Starforce recruits propaganda bit might add extra depth to the Kree side. And the security guard Carol chats with early on? That's Marvel's real-life security director, Barry Curtis, in a cool insider cameo. The film's global success still impresses. It pulled in over $1.131 billion worldwide, with $426.8 million domestic and a massive $704.6 million international, including around $154 million from China alone, where it dominated on opening weekend. That made it the first female-led superhero movie to cross $1 billion, proving diverse stories could crush it at the box office. In 2026, looking back, its legacy feels even bigger. It bridged the gap to Endgame, set up Secret Invasion vibes with the Skrulls, and inspired waves of representation in the MCU, from the Marvels to broader hero diversity. The review bombing drama? It backfired spectacularly, turning into a win for genuine fans who showed up and loved it. We're still cruising through this Ultimate Captain Marvel appreciation marathon, and since we've already covered so much ground, the cast chemistry, Goose's starring role, Easter eggs galore, deleted scenes, soundtrack brilliance, marketing moves, global box office wins, and that empowering core. Let's shift gears and zoom in on fresh angles that make this 2019 gem feel even more special today. As your dedicated guide, I'm pulling out some lesser spoken about aspects, subtle filmmaking choices, cultural echoes, and why the movie continues to resonate so strongly in 2026, all without repeating the same beats we've already hit. One thing that really stands out on a fresh look is how the directors Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck used color grading and lighting to tell the story visually. Early scenes on Hala, the Kree homeworld, lean into cool blues and greens, sterile, controlled, almost oppressive, to mirror the rigid Kree society and Carol's suppressed memories. As she spends more time on Earth, especially in those warm California sunsets and cozy Rambo family moments, the palette warms up with richer oranges, yellows, and earth tones. It's a subtle but powerful way to show her reclaiming her humanity and freedom. The cosmic sequences explode with vibrant purples, golds, and electric blues during her power moments, making those photon blasts feel alive and triumphant. Now, it's cinematography that supports the emotional arc without ever calling attention to itself. Classic indie sensibility meeting blockbuster scale. Another layer worth celebrating is the way the film handles mentorship and toxic influence. Yanrog's relationship with Carol starts as classic teacher-student, but there's this undercurrent of control and gaslighting that feels painfully real. The movie never lets it slide. It shows how even well-intentioned guidance can become limiting when it's rooted in someone else's agenda. That quiet dismantling of authority is one of the most satisfying threads, delivered through small looks, tense dialogue, and ultimately a very earned confrontation. It's empowering without being heavy-handed, and it gives the whole story a grounded emotional stakes that superhero films sometimes skip. Let's talk about the practical effects legacy too. While the VFX teams delivered stunning space battles and energy manipulation, the film leaned hard on real stunts for the hand-to-hand combat and chases. Brie's training paid off in scenes where you can see the physicality. Those judo throws, the grounded punches, the way she moves like someone who's actually flown jets. The train sequence combined location shooting in LA with practical wire work and pyrotechnics before layering in digital enhancements, so the impacts feel weighty and real. That blend is part of why the action still holds up so well compared to fully CG-heavy entries. Culturally, Captain Marvel quietly shifted conversations around female rage in pop culture. Carol gets angry, rightfully, powerfully, and the film never punishes her for it. Instead, it frames that anger as fuel for growth and justice. In an era where women expressing fury often gets coded as unlikable, this movie says, nah, it's valid, it's necessary, and it's heroic. That message landed with so many viewers, especially younger ones, and you still see it referenced in discussions about representation and emotional authenticity in blockbusters. On the tech side, the de-aging wasn't just for Fury and Coulson, it set a new bar. The process used deep learning models trained on archival footage to map younger facial structures onto performances, then blended lighting and skin texture frame by frame. It's why Fury looks believably 1995 without that uncanny plastic sheen some earlier attempts had. That tech has since become standard for period MCU stories. But Captain Marvel was one of the pioneers in using it for an entire character runtime. And here's a fun one for the detail hunters. During the Skrull memory probe scenes, the flickering images pull from real archival footage mixed with fabricated memories. Everything from old Air Force test flights to family snapshots. It adds texture and makes those sequences feel lived in rather than generic flashback montages. The sound design in those moments is killer too. Layered echoes, reversed audio, distorted voices to mimic the disorientation of having your mind rifled through. The movie also nails something rare in origin stories. It trusts the audience to piece things together. Backstory drops in fragments, through dreams, interrogations, conversations, rather than one big exposition dump. That pacing keeps you engaged, guessing, and emotionally invested without spoon-feeding. It's confident storytelling that respects your intelligence. In 2026, with the MCU in its evolving phases, Captain Marvel feels like a perfect pivot point. It expanded the cosmic side of the universe while staying rooted in personal stakes, set up long-term threads without overshadowing its own narrative, and proved that a standalone hero film could carry massive weight in the larger saga. It's the kind of entry you can watch alone for fun or as part of a marathon and still get something new each time. We're keeping this Captain Marvel love train rolling strong. And since we've already unpacked so many corners of the film, the visuals, the mentorship dynamics, the practical stunts, the emotional authenticity of anger, the groundbreaking de-aging, the clever memory probe editing, the confident pacing, let's pivot to some entirely new territory that still makes this 2019 entry feel fresh and vital. One aspect that deserves its own spotlight is how the movie uses humor as a weapon against isolation. Carol starts the story feeling detached, cut off from her past, molded into someone else's version of a soldier, floating through space with a team that doesn't quite fit. The humor isn't just comic relief, it's the bridge back to connection. Think about the small, dry exchanges with Fury in the interrogation room, The way Maria Rambeau's family instantly grounds her with teasing and familiarity, or even the absurd joy of a cat turning out to be an interdimensional tentacle monster. Every laugh chips away at her walls, reminding her and us that being powerful doesn't mean being alone. Now, with that balance, never letting humor undercut the stakes, but using it to humanize the cosmic scale, is rare and beautifully executed. Another fresh angle is the film's quiet commentary on memory and identity theft. The Skrulls aren't cartoon villains here. Their ability to impersonate anyone forces a deeper question. What makes you you when someone can wear your face, your voice, your memories? Carol's journey becomes a reclaiming of her own narrative, not just her powers. The way the movie handles suppressed memories, piecing them together through flashes, contradictions, and finally acceptance, feels almost therapeutic. It's a subtle thread about trauma, gaslighting, and the courage to face inconvenient truths wrapped in a superhero blockbuster. That emotional intelligence elevates the whole thing beyond typical origin story beats. Let's shine a light on the supporting ensemble's texture too. Characters like Minerva, Atlas, and Bronchar aren't just background Star Force members. Each has a distinct personality that colors the team dynamic. Minerva's quiet competitiveness, Atlas's laid-back sarcasm, Bronchar's blunt physicality, they all bounce off Carol and Yanrog in ways that make the Kree feel like a real, flawed military unit rather than faceless drones. Even the brief glimpses of Skrull family life, Talos's tenderness toward his wife and daughter, add humanity to what could have been pure antagonists. These small strokes of character make the larger conflicts hit harder. On the world-building front, the film smartly expands the MCU's 1990s slice without overwhelming it. We get just enough glimpses of early SHIELD bureaucracy, Project Pegasus research, and Kree-Skrull tensions to feel the universe breathing, but never at the expense of Carol's personal story. The decision to set it pre-Avengers keeps the focus intimate, no world-ending crossover pressure, yet plants seeds that bloom years later. That restraint is part of why it still feels like a standalone adventure you can enjoy on its own terms. Something else worth noting is the costume evolution as a metaphor. Carol's initial green Kree suit is sleek, uniform, almost armored, designed to blend in and obey. The moment she rejects it for the red, blue, and gold ensemble, with that star front and center, isn't just a glow-up. It's a declaration of self. The added bomber jacket on Earth layers in her pilot heritage and makes her look approachable, grounded. Costume changes in superhero films often get dismissed as fan service, but here they track her psychological shift so cleanly it's almost poetic. In today's context, 2026, with so many superhero fatigue conversations happening, the film's optimism stands out. It doesn't shy away from pain or doubt, but it ultimately chooses hope, connection, and self-belief as the answers. That positivity, delivered without cynicism, feels like a deliberate counterpoint to darker tones elsewhere in the genre. It's the kind of movie you put on when the world feels heavy and walk away lighter. We're still deep in this heartfelt ode to Captain Marvel, and with all the visual storytelling, emotional intelligence, ensemble shading, restrained world-building, costume symbolism, and optimistic tone already on the table, let's turn our attention to a few more underappreciated strengths that make the film feel so alive and rewatchable. One of those strengths is the way it treats found family as quietly revolutionary. Carol arrives on Earth essentially orphaned from her past, yet within hours she's folded into Maria and Monica's world. Not through grand declarations, but through shared laughs over old photos, casual kitchen banter, and the kind of easy shorthand that only comes from real history. The film shows how chosen bonds can heal what blood and duty have broken, without ever spelling it out. That warmth radiates through the final stretch and leaves you with the sense that true strength isn't solitary, it's shared. Another fresh perspective is the subtle feminist lens applied to military culture. Carol's Air Force flashbacks and her interactions with early SHIELD highlight the casual sexism and skepticism she faced as a woman in uniform. But the movie never turns it into a lecture. Instead, it lets those microaggressions sit alongside her competence until the contrast becomes its own quiet indictment. The payoff is a hero who doesn't have to prove she belongs. She simply does, and the world catches up. That approach feels refreshingly mature for a blockbuster. Let's also give credit to the editing rhythm. The film jumps between timelines and planets with a confidence that never leaves the audience behind. Flashbacks are short, sharp, and emotionally pointed, never lingering for exposition's sake. The cuts during action sequences are kinetic but readable, so you always know where Carol is in space and what she's aiming at. That clarity amid chaos is harder to pull off than it looks, and it's one of the reasons the movie never feels bloated despite juggling so many locations and ideas. On the technical side, the flight choreography deserves its own applause. When Carol finally takes to the skies in full power, the camera moves with her, tracking shots that swoop and barrel roll, practical wire work blended with digital trails that make every turn feel physical. The sense of speed and weight is tangible. You feel the G-forces even on a couch. It's the kind of aerial work that harkens back to Top Gun while pushing into comic book fantasy, and it still looks spectacular. There's also a lovely restraint in the villain design. The antagonists are never reduced to snarling monsters. They're believers in a cause, shaped by their own histories and fears. And that nuance makes the conflict feel ideological rather than cartoonish, and it invites you to understand rather than just cheer for the punches. It's a small but important choice that keeps the stakes personal. Finally, in 2026, the movie's greatest gift might be its reminder that origins can be joyful. So many superhero stories begin in grief or rage. Captain Marvel begins in confusion, yes, but it ends in delight. The delight of remembering who you are, of laughing with old friends, of discovering powers that feel like coming home. That joy is contagious, and it's why the film still works as comfort viewing even after multiple viewings. We're still soaring high in this deep appreciation of Captain Marvel, and with so many facets already explored. The found family warmth, the nuanced take on military sexism, the crisp editing flow, the exhilarating flight choreography, the layered villain motivations, the joyful origin tone. Let's uncover a few more distinctive elements that give the film its unique glow and keep it feeling vital. One quietly powerful choice is how the movie treats silence as a storytelling tool. There are moments, after a memory surfaces, during a tense standoff on the Skrull ship, or in the quiet beat right after Carol absorbs the full weight of her past, where the sound design pulls back almost completely. No swelling score, no dialogue, just the hum of engines or the soft rush of air. Those pockets of quiet let the emotional impact land without interference, giving the audience space to feel what Carol is feeling. It's a bold move in a genre that often fills every second with noise, and it makes the louder, more explosive payoffs hit even harder. Another standout is the way humor is used to disarm power imbalances. When Carol first reunites with Maria and Monica, the banter starts light and teasing, but it quickly reveals deep trust. The jokes aren't there to undercut her strength. They're proof of how secure she is in that space. Similarly, Fury's deadpan reactions to increasingly wild revelations keep him relatable without diminishing the cosmic weirdness around him. The comedy feels earned because it grows out of genuine relationships, not forced one-liners, and that authenticity makes the laughs warmer and more memorable. Let's also appreciate the film's handling of scale transitions. It moves effortlessly from intimate motel room conversations to galaxy-spanning dogfights without ever losing its sense of proportion. A single cut can take you from a backyard barbecue to an orbiting warship, yet the emotional thread, Carol's search for belonging, holds everything together. That seamless shifting between personal stakes and interstellar spectacle is one of the trickiest things to nail in a superhero origin, and Captain Marvel does it with grace. On a character level, Monica Rambeau's brief but vivid presence as a child leaves a lasting impression. Her wide-eyed awe, her fearless curiosity, her instant hero worship of Auntie Carol plant seeds for future stories while giving the present one an extra layer of heart. She's not just cute kid sidekick material, she's a mirror showing what unfiltered belief in someone can look like, and that innocence contrasts beautifully with the cynicism Carol has been carrying. Oh, the practical makeup and prosthetics for the Skrulls deserve a nod too. The subtle texturing on their skin, the way the ridges catch light differently in human versus true form, the small muscle shifts when they shift. These details sell the illusion even in close-ups. It's old-school craftsmanship meeting modern effects, and it makes the shape-shifting feel tactile rather than purely digital. In a broader sense, the movie quietly champions curiosity over certainty. Carol's arc is driven by questions. Who am I? What happened? Why was I told one version of the truth? And the story rewards her for refusing easy answers. That intellectual bravery, paired with her physical courage, makes her a hero who thinks as fiercely as she fights. Captain Marvel keeps revealing new shades because it was made with real care for character, tone, and craft. It's the kind of film that grows with you. The more life experience you bring to it, the more you find in return. So, next time you press play, pay attention to those silences, those small acts of trust, those seamless leaps across the cosmos. They're part of what makes this one special. We're still riding this wave of pure Captain Marvel admiration, and with so many beautiful layers already celebrated, the strategic silences, humor as a bridge, seamless scale shifts, Monica's innocent spark, Skrull makeup craftsmanship, the embrace of curiosity. Let's shine light on a handful of other subtle but powerful choices that give the film its lasting magic. One element that quietly elevates everything is the use of practical locations to anchor the fantastical. The Rambeau family home isn't a sterile set. No, it's a lived-in Louisiana house with real sunlight streaming through mismatched curtains, kids' drawings taped to the fridge, and that unmistakable smell of home warmth you can almost feel through the screen. Those details make the emotional homecoming land with authenticity. Likewise, the early 90s Air Force sequences were shot at actual bases, capturing the specific echo of hangars, the faint scent of jet fuel in the air, even if we can't smell it, the way boots sound on concrete. That tactile reality grounds even the most otherworldly moments, reminding us that heroes start from very human places. Another understated triumph is the film's refusal to over-explain powers. When Carol first accesses her full energy, there's no lengthy training montage or mentor lecture on how it works. Instead, then we see instinct take over. Her body remembers what her mind was told to forget. The glow starts small, hesitant, then surges with confidence as she trusts herself. That organic unfolding respects the audience's intelligence and mirrors real personal breakthroughs. You don't always need a manual. Sometimes the power was already inside you, waiting for permission to shine. The sound mix also deserves its moment in the spotlight. Beyond the obvious blasts and whooshes, listen for the intimate details, the soft metallic click of a Skrull shifting shape, the faint crackle of energy building under Carol's skin before it erupts, the way Maria's voice cuts through chaos with calm authority. Those micro sounds create immersion. You're not just watching events, you're inside them. The contrast between the sterile Kree ship hum and the lively, layered Earth ambiance, traffic, cicadas, laughter, further reinforces the theme of belonging versus alienation. Let's give a nod to the costume texture choices too. Carol's final suit isn't glossy spandex perfection. It has subtle wear, scuffs from battle, a lived-in suppleness to the fabric. It looks like something a real person would fight in. Functional, battle-tested, personal. That realism makes her feel approachable rather than untouchable, inviting viewers to imagine themselves stepping into those boots. There's also a beautiful symmetry in how the story circles back to flight. Carol begins grounded, literally and figuratively, trapped in someone else's narrative. By the end, she's not just flying, she's choosing her trajectory, unrestricted, with allies watching her go but never holding her back. And that arc from constraint to boundless freedom is visually and thematically poetic, turning a superhero origin into something profoundly liberating. In 2026, when so much entertainment leans cynical or overstuffed, Captain Marvel's clarity of purpose stands out more than ever. It knows exactly what it wants to be, a story about a woman remembering her worth, reclaiming her story, and soaring without apology. No bloat, no cynicism, just honest joy in discovery and connection. This film keeps rewarding attention because every craft decision serves the heart of the story. Next time you watch, tune into those location textures, the unspoken power moments, the intimate sound layers, the worn-in heroism. You'll find even more to love. We're still wrapped up in this ongoing tribute to Captain Marvel, and with so many thoughtful elements already highlighted, the lived-in locations, the instinctual power awakening, the intimate sound layers, the battle-worn costume realism, the poetic flight symmetry, let's explore a few more distinctive threads that quietly make the film richer and more memorable. One subtle but brilliant decision is how the movie uses mirrors and reflections as recurring visual motifs. Early on, Carol catches glimpses of herself in polished Kree surfaces, distorted, fragmented, not fully her own. As the story progresses, reflections become clearer. In car windows during the high-speed chase, in the soft glow of Earth lights at night, and finally in moments of self-recognition where she sees the woman she truly is. These aren't flashy effects shots. They're understated mirrors, literal and figurative, that track her journey from borrowed identity to authentic self. The motif never calls attention to itself, yet it adds a poetic layer that deepens every rewatch. Another strength lies in the film's gentle treatment of vulnerability as strength. Carol's moments of doubt, those flashes of confusion, the brief hesitation before embracing her full light, are never played for weakness. They're treated as necessary steps toward clarity. The story trusts that showing uncertainty doesn't diminish a hero, it humanizes her. That quiet confidence in vulnerability sets Captain Marvel apart from tales that demand constant bravado. And it resonates especially deeply when you consider how rarely superhero films allow their leads those unguarded breaths. Let's also celebrate the way music and silence dance together in the quieter character beats. When Carol sits with Maria and Monica around the dinner table, the score drops away almost entirely, letting natural sounds, forks on plates, soft laughter, the creak of an old chair, carry the scene. Those unadorned moments feel profoundly intimate, because nothing competes with the human connection. It's a reminder that sometimes the most powerful action is simply people being present with each other. The choreography of Carol's first real fight on Earth deserves its own appreciation too. It's messy, improvised, almost street level. She uses whatever's at hand, a motorbike, a railing, sheer momentum, rather than polished martial arts forms. The raw physicality sells her as someone rediscovering her body after years of suppression. It's not elegant yet. It's effective, angry, triumphant. That progression from clumsy rediscovery to graceful mastery across the runtime is one of the film's most satisfying character arcs told purely through movement. There's also a lovely economy in how the film handles props as emotional anchors. The old photo of young Carol with her father isn't just set dressing. It's a talisman she carries, a reminder of roots she was told to forget. The cassette tape Maria plays in the truck isn't random nostalgia. It's a time capsule of shared joy. These small objects become silent witnesses to her reclamation, carrying weight far beyond their screen time. In today's landscape, Captain Marvel's blend of spectacle and sincerity feels almost radical. It doesn't mock earnestness, doesn't undercut hope with irony. It lets wonder coexist with grit. It lets joy sit beside justice. That tonal balance, neither overly grim nor cartoonishly bright, is harder to achieve than it looks, and the film nails it. This movie keeps unfolding because every creative choice was made in service of one central idea: a woman remembering she has always been enough. The mirrors, the vulnerability, the unhurried human moments, the grounded fights, the meaningful props, they all circle back to that truth. We're keeping this Captain Marvel appreciation flowing strong, and with so many thoughtful elements already in the spotlight, the reflective motifs, vulnerability as power, unadorned human moments, raw first-fight physicality, emotional anchor props, let's uncover a few more under-the-radar strengths that quietly make the film sing. And one of the most elegant touches is how the movie uses doors and thresholds as symbolic transitions. Carol literally and figuratively steps through doorways at pivotal moments, crossing from the Kree ship into the unknown, entering the Rambeau home after years away, pushing open the door to her suppressed memories. Each threshold marks a shift, from control to freedom, from isolation to belonging, from doubt to certainty. The camera often lingers just long enough on these crossings to let the weight settle without fanfare. It's a simple architectural device turned into quiet poetry, reinforcing her journey every time she moves forward. Another understated brilliance is the film's trust in physical comedy to reveal character. Fury's deadpan reactions to escalating absurdity, the cat, the shape-shifting, and the sudden energy blasts aren't just punchlines. They show a man who has spent his career dealing with secrets suddenly facing the truly inexplicable. His slow blinks, the tiny head tilts, The exasperated sighs paint him as grounded and adaptable in the most human way. The humor never feels tacked on because it grows directly from how these characters would actually respond to each other in the moment. Let's also highlight the way the film handles light sources as emotional cues. Early scenes rely on cold, artificial Kree lighting, harsh overheads, sterile glows, that make everything feel clinical and distant. On Earth, natural light takes over. Golden hour sun through trees, warm porch lamps, the soft blue of a TV screen in a living room. When Carol's powers fully ignite, her own light becomes the dominant source, casting warm and radiant glows on the faces around her. The shift in lighting mirrors her internal shift from being lit by someone else's rules to generating her own illumination. The choreography of smaller, non-combat interactions deserves praise too. Watch how Carol instinctively mirrors Maria's posture during their reunion, shoulders relaxing, hands finding familiar places, without either woman saying a word. Those tiny, unconscious body language echoes speak volumes about years of friendship that no dialogue could fully capture. The physical shorthand between them feels lived in and real, adding depth to their bond in seconds. There's also a smart restraint in how the cosmic elements are introduced. The Kree tech, the Skrull ships, the Supreme Intelligence's domain, they're revealed gradually, piece by piece, so the wonder builds naturally. We don't get a full info-dump tour of the universe, we discover it alongside Carol, which keeps the scale feeling personal rather than overwhelming. In a time when many blockbusters chase spectacle for spectacle's sake, Captain Marvel's willingness to let quiet, specific, character-driven choices carry equal weight feels almost defiant. The doors, the deadpan beats, the evolving light, the unspoken body language, the measured unveiling of the cosmos, they all serve one truth. A hero's greatest power isn't the energy she blasts, it's the self she finally claims. This film continues to reward close attention because it was crafted with genuine respect for both the audience and the story. Every time you return, another small, perfect detail catches your eye and heart. We're still deep in this celebration of Captain Marvel. And with all those thoughtful threads already woven, the symbolic doors and thresholds, physical comedy revealing character, evolving light sources as emotional guides, unspoken body language shorthand, measured cosmic reveals, let's turn to a few more fresh, under-the-radar aspects that quietly elevate the entire experience. One of the film's most graceful moves is how it uses repetition with variation to build emotional payoff. Certain phrases and actions echo across the runtime, but each time they return, they carry new meaning. Higher, further, faster starts as a childhood mantra tied to ambition and loss, reappears in training as a Kree-imposed limit, then finally becomes Carol's own declaration of unbound possibility. The repetition isn't lazy writing, it's deliberate scaffolding that lets the audience feel the full arc of transformation every time the words come back. That subtle layering turns a simple line into a powerful emotional anchor. Another understated strength is the film's commitment to showing rather than telling resilience. We never get a speech about never giving up. Instead, we watch Carol get knocked down, physically and metaphorically, and rise again, each time a little steadier, a little more herself. The physical toll is visible: sweat, heavy breathing, momentary winces after impacts. Those small signs of effort make her eventual mastery feel earned rather than inevitable. It's a rare blockbuster that lets heroism look hard without losing the sense of wonder. Let's also appreciate how the movie treats time as elastic rather than linear. The 1995 setting isn't just backdrop. The story plays with temporal distance. Carol's memories feel both immediate and ancient. Fury's early career wide-eyed curiosity contrasts with what we know comes later. The Skrull refugees carry generations of displacement. That elastic sense of time gives even brief scenes a sense of depth and history, making the universe feel vast yet intimately connected. The handling of peripheral characters' agency is worth noting too. No one in Carol's orbit is merely reactive. Maria makes active choices to protect her daughter and her friend. Talos risks everything for his people's survival. Even the Supreme Intelligence operates from its own logic rather than mindless evil. These decisions keep the world feeling populated by real people with their own stakes, not just supporting pieces in Carol's story. There's also a beautiful minimalism in how the film deploys spectacle. When Carol finally unleashes her full power in the climax, The sequence doesn't devolve into endless VFX excess. It builds to a few clean, iconic images, a glowing trail across the sky, a decisive punch that shatters barriers, and then trusts the audience to feel the weight of it. Less becomes more because the buildup has been so careful. In 2026, when so many films chase escalating stakes and multiversal complexity, Captain Marvel's focused, character-first approach feels like a breath of fresh air. It proves you don't need galaxy-ending threats to deliver epic emotion. You just need one woman's journey told with honesty, craft, and heart. This movie keeps surprising because every layer you peel back reveals more intention. The repeated motifs with new weight, the visible effort of resilience, the elastic sense of time, the agency given to everyone on screen, the restrained spectacle, they all serve the same core promise. Believing in yourself is the ultimate superpower. We're still immersed in this ongoing love letter to Captain Marvel, and with so many delicate strengths already illuminated, the echoed motifs carrying evolving weight, visible effort and resilience, elastic sense of time, a full agency for supporting characters, restrained spectacle. Let's uncover a few more fresh, rarely discussed qualities that quietly add to the film's enduring charm. One particularly elegant choice is how the movie treats gravity, literal and emotional, as something that can be defied without erasing its existence. Carol's flights aren't weightless fantasy. You see the strain in her shoulders during early, an unsteady lifts, the way she pushes against Earth's pull before breaking free. That physical resistance makes her eventual, effortless soaring feel like a true victory rather than a default state. The same principle applies emotionally. Doubt and pain aren't erased when she claims her power. They're transcended, carried along but no longer defining her direction. The film never pretends gravity doesn't exist. It simply shows a woman learning she can rise above it. Another subtle triumph is the way peripheral environments reflect inner states without heavy symbolism. The desolate desert where Carol first crashes feels barren and isolating, mirroring her disconnection. The cluttered, sunlit Rambo backyard bursts with life. Kids' toys scattered, laundry on the line, distant cicada hum, creating an immediate sense of rooted, messy humanity. The orbiting Kree vessel is all sleek metal and cold geometry, echoing the rigid control she's been under. These environmental shifts aren't loud metaphors. They're atmospheric companions that support the mood so naturally you feel them more than analyze them. Let's also appreciate the film's gentle rhythm in character introductions. No one gets a dramatic entrance with swelling music or slow-motion walks. Fury simply appears in an ordinary office. Talos blends into a crowd without fanfare. Maria is discovered in her own home doing everyday things. That understated arrival style makes every relationship feel organic and earned. People enter Carol's life the way real people do, quietly, unexpectedly, then indispensably. The handling of color temperature and skin tones during power moments is another small masterstroke. Now, when Carol channels energy, her skin takes on a soft, golden warmth rather than the harsh blue-white often used for superhuman glows. That choice keeps her looking human even at her most powerful, radiant, not alien. It visually reinforces that her abilities come from within her humanity, not in spite of it. There's also a lovely confidence in leaving certain questions unanswered. We get hints about the broader Kree-Skrull war, glimpses of larger cosmic politics, but the film never pauses to explain the full galactic chessboard. It trusts that the personal story is enough, that Carol's awakening carries more weight than a complete lore dump. That restraint keeps the focus intimate and lets the universe feel bigger than any single movie. In a landscape full of franchise obligations and interconnected plotting, and Captain Marvel's willingness to be a complete self-contained emotional journey while still planting seeds feels refreshingly bold. The defiance of gravity, the mood-mirroring environments, the natural character arrivals, the warm power glow, the unanswered cosmic edges, they all serve one quiet conviction. A hero's story can be epic without being exhaustive. We're still happily lost in this celebration of Captain Marvel, and with so many elegant choices already brought into focus. The defiant gravity and flight and emotion, mood-reflecting environments, organic character arrivals, warm, humanized power glow, confident, unanswered cosmic questions. Let's shine a gentle light on a few more subtle, seldom mentioned aspects that quietly deepen the film's soul. However, one of the movie's most graceful undercurrents is how it treats memory not as fixed truth, but as something fluid and reclaimable. Carol's recollections arrive in shards, out of order, contradictory, colored by different emotions each time they surface. The story never forces them into a neat chronological box. Instead, it allows the pieces to shift and settle as she gains perspective. That fluid approach mirrors how real people actually process trauma and identity, not in straight lines, but in waves that reveal new angles with every return. The film honors that messiness without judgment, making her eventual clarity feel profoundly satisfying. Another quiet power is the way small acts of hospitality become acts of resistance. When Maria invites Carol into her home without hesitation, when she offers food, coffee, there's a place to sit. Those everyday gestures stand in direct opposition to the Kree's cold efficiency and the Supreme Intelligence's clinical detachment. Hospitality here isn't background politeness. It's a radical affirmation of belonging, of saying, "You are welcome exactly as you are." The warmth of those domestic rituals quietly counters years of dehumanization, and the contrast is felt more than stated. Let's also appreciate the film's restrained use of close-ups during emotional peaks. Rather than crowding the frame with giant reactions, the camera often holds medium shots or even wider compositions, letting body language, posture shifts, and the space between people do the heavy lifting. When Carol finally sees her daughter figure Monica again, or when she locks eyes with Maria across the room, the distance in the frame preserves dignity and lets the emotion breathe. Those choices keep the performances grounded and authentic, no overwrought hero face required. The treatment of touch as a language of reconnection is another understated beauty. Hands on shoulders, brief hugs, the way fingers brush during a shared memory. These contacts are sparse but deliberate. Physical touch arrives only after emotional trust has been reestablished, making every instance carry weight. In a story about someone who has been physically remade and emotionally isolated, those chosen moments of contact become powerful declarations of return and acceptance. There's also a lovely economy in how the film deploys silence between allies. When Fury and Carol sit in the car after the safe house escape, or when Maria watches her friend step into the light, a few words are needed. The quiet isn't awkward. It's full of understanding, of history, of unspoken, "I've got you." That comfort in shared silence speaks volumes about bonds that don't require constant explanation. In a genre often driven by noise and escalation, Captain Marvel's confidence in letting stillness, hospitality, measured closeness, sparse touch, and comfortable quiet carry meaning feels quietly revolutionary. These choices remind us that heroism isn't always loud explosions. Sometimes it's the soft space where someone finally feels seen and held. This film keeps offering new tenderness because it was built with such deliberate care for the human moments inside the spectacle. Every return visit uncovers another layer of grace. We're still wrapped in this warm, ongoing tribute to Captain Marvel. And with so many gentle strengths already cherished, the fluid, reclaimable nature of memory, small acts of hospitality as quiet rebellion, measured close-ups preserving dignity, touch as deliberate reconnection, comfortable silences between allies, let's gently uncover a few more understated qualities that continue to make the film feel so alive and generous. One of the movie's most touching undercurrents is how it portrays curiosity as an act of love. When Monica asks wide-eyed questions about flying and powers, when Fury keeps probing even after the weirdness escalates, when Carol herself refuses to accept surface answers about her past, these moments of wondering aren't framed as naivety or annoyance. They're framed as care. Curiosity here becomes the opposite of control. It's an open hand reaching toward understanding rather than a clenched fist demanding obedience. That small reframing turns every inquisitive glance or follow-up question into an expression of affection, and it ripples through every relationship on screen. Another delicate beauty is the film's trust in ordinary objects to carry extraordinary meaning over time. A simple glass of water offered after a crash, a worn cassette tape played in a truck, an old wooden table where stories are shared. These everyday items become vessels for memory and connection without ever being spotlighted. They don't need dramatic close-ups or swelling music. Their power comes from repetition and context. By the time we see them again, they feel like old friends. by quietly witnessing the return of someone who once belonged there. That unforced accumulation of significance makes the domestic world feel sacred. Let's also notice how the movie allows characters to be contradictory without apology. Carol can be fierce and gentle, confident and uncertain, angry and playful, often in the same breath. Maria can be protective and teasing, grounded and dreaming. Fury can be skeptical yet hopeful, bureaucratic yet brave. No one is flattened into a single trait or archetype. The contradictions aren't flaws to be resolved, they're proof of full humanity. That permission to be complex without explanation gives every performance breathing room and makes the relationships feel lived in rather than scripted. The way the film handles aftermath beats, those small pauses after big action, deserves its own quiet applause. And after a crash, a fight, a revelation, there's often a moment where characters simply exist in the space they've just changed, catching breath, exchanging a look, wiping dust off a sleeve. These micro-pauses let adrenaline settle and emotion rise naturally. They're tiny refusals to rush past consequence, and they make the victories feel more real because we see the cost and the recovery in the same frame. There's also a subtle grace in how the story never weaponizes Carol's kindness. Her warmth toward Monica, her patience with Fury's questions, her instinct to protect rather than dominate, these aren't portrayed as weaknesses to overcome. They're strengths that coexist with her power. The film refuses the tired trope that softness must be shed to become heroic. Instead, I might insists that compassion and cosmic strength can live in the same body, and that holding both makes someone more formidable, not less. In a world that often demands heroes be unbreakable monoliths, Captain Marvel quietly insists that curiosity is love. Ordinary objects can hold lifetimes, contradictions are human, aftermath matters, and kindness is power. These gentle refusals, of cynicism, of simplification, of haste, give the film a rare, sustaining warmth. This movie keeps unfolding because it was made with such deep respect for the small, the contradictory, the aftermath, the kind. Every return visit feels like coming home to a place that always has room for more of you. We're still wrapped in this gentle, ongoing appreciation of Captain Marvel, and with so many tender layers already honored, the curiosity as love thread, on ordinary objects becoming vessels of memory, permission for contradiction in character, meaningful aftermath pauses, kindness coexisting with power. Let's quietly turn toward a few more soft-spoken qualities that continue to make the film feel so humane and alive. One of the movie's most disarming graces is how it allows characters to be wrong without shame. Fury misreads situations, makes snap judgments about who can be trusted, jumps to conclusions about motives, yet none of these missteps define him or end the story. Carol herself carries assumptions from her Kree conditioning that prove false, and the film never punishes her for having believed them. It simply lets her see clearly and move forward. That forgiveness of error, both in others and in self, creates a rare atmosphere of grace. Mistakes aren't plot devices to be overcome with dramatic redemption arcs. They're just part of being a person trying to navigate a suddenly much bigger world. The lack of judgment around being wrong feels quietly radical in a genre that often demands near infallibility from its leads. Another subtle gift is the way the film treats waiting as active. There are moments, Fury waiting in a quiet room for answers, Maria waiting years for her friend to come home, Carol waiting through suppressed memories to resurface, where nothing happens on the surface. Yet everything is happening inside. The camera doesn't cut away quickly. It lingers in the waiting, letting us feel the tension, the hope, the patience required to hold space for truth to emerge. Waiting here isn't passive filler, it's courageous stillness, and a form of strength that doesn't require motion or noise. That honoring of pause gives the story emotional depth that pure momentum never could. Let's also notice how the movie gently reclaims the idea of home from something fixed to something carried. Carol's childhood house is gone, her original life fragmented, yet home reappears in unexpected places, a stranger's couch that becomes safe, a backyard where old jokes still land, a cockpit where she remembers how to fly. The film never insists that home must be a single address or a single era. It lets home be portable, something you recognize in people, in shared laughter, in the feel of controls under your hands. That redefinition makes the ending feel expansive rather than neatly tied up. The treatment of peripheral sounds as emotional texture is another small wonder. Beyond the main score and dialogue, listen for the soft clink of Maria's keys as she moves through her house, the distant bark of a neighborhood dog during a tense night scene, the low hum of an old refrigerator in the background of a kitchen talk. These ambient details aren't background noise. They're proof of life continuing, of ordinary worlds persisting even when cosmic stakes arrive. They keep the Earth scenes feeling grounded and continuous, so the arrival of aliens never fully erases the everyday. There's also a quiet dignity in how the film lets characters keep private pain private. Not every wound gets explained on screen. Not every tear is witnessed. Some hurts are carried off-screen, acknowledged in a glance or a held breath, then respectfully left alone. And that restraint respects the audience's imagination and the characters' inner lives. No need to dissect every scar for the story to feel complete. In a time when so much storytelling rushes to explain, resolve, and display every feeling, Captain Marvel's willingness to let characters be wrong with grace, to treat waiting as strength, to carry home in people rather than places, to weave ambient life into the texture, to leave some pain private. These choices create a rare kind of spaciousness. The film doesn't crowd you. It invites you in and trusts you'll feel what's there. This movie keeps offering new room to breathe because it was crafted with such deep kindness toward its characters and its viewers. Every return feels like stepping into a space that remembers you. We're still gently unfolding this appreciation for Captain Marvel. And with so many quiet graces already held close, the grace around being wrong, the courage in waiting, home as something carried ambient sounds of persistent life, privacy for unspoken pain, let's turn toward a few more soft, seldom-spoken strengths that keep the film feeling so kind and complete. One of the movie's most nourishing qualities is how it treats reunion as a slow bloom rather than a sudden explosion. When Carol and Maria finally stand in the same room again, the recognition doesn't erupt in tears or dramatic music right away. It arrives in stages, a hesitant smile, a testing nickname, a shared memory offered like a fragile gift. The film gives the moment room to unfold naturally, letting disbelief, joy, grief, and relief layer over one another without rushing to resolve any of them. That patience with reunion honors how real separations leave echoes, how coming back together can feel both miraculous and strangely fragile. The slow bloom makes the connection feel earned and lasting. Another understated beauty is the way the story allows characters to surprise themselves. Carol doesn't always know what she'll do next. Sometimes she reacts on instinct, then looks almost startled by her own power or choice. Fury finds himself believing things he would have dismissed yesterday. Maria discovers reserves of steadiness she perhaps didn't name before. These small self-surprises aren't played for comedy or shock. They're treated as natural parts of growth. The film trusts that people can still astonish themselves even after years of conditioning or routine. And that gentle faith in ongoing discovery adds a living pulse to every performance. Let's also cherish how the movie uses peripheral movement to signal emotional undercurrents. Characters rarely stand perfectly still when feeling something big. Maria shifts her weight when Carol first walks in. Fury rubs the back of his neck during revelations. Monica bounces on her toes with uncontainable excitement. These tiny, unconscious motions, fidgeting hands, a slight turn of the shoulder, a quick glance away then back, carry what's too big or too new for words. The choreography of ordinary human restlessness in extraordinary moments keeps the film grounded in real bodies experiencing real feelings. The gentle handling of legacy is another quiet gift. Carol's father isn't idealized into a perfect saint. He's remembered with love and ache, not flaws included. The Air Force patches, the old flight manuals, the stories Maria tells, they're passed forward not as flawless heirlooms, but as complicated inheritances that Carol can both honor and surpass. The film never demands she reject or sanctify the past. It simply lets her carry what matters and leave behind what no longer serves. That balanced legacy-making feels honest and freeing. There's also a lovely absence of score in certain intimate exchanges. When two people who have missed each other finally speak truth, or when someone chooses trust after long suspicion, the music often steps back completely. The nakedness of those spoken or unspoken moments No orchestral cushion makes the words and glances feel more courageous and real. Silence around vulnerability isn't emptiness, it's space for the heart to be fully heard. And I'm in a genre that can sometimes hurry past these softer textures. Captain Marvel's willingness to let reunions bloom slowly, to allow self-surprise, to speak through small movements, to handle legacy with nuance, to trust bare silence. These choices create a rare kind of emotional spaciousness and truth. This film keeps feeling like a warm hand extended because it never rushes the heartbeats that matter most. Every return visit lets you settle deeper into its kindness. We're still comfortably settled into this long, loving conversation about Captain Marvel, savoring every fresh angle that keeps revealing itself the longer we look. One of the film's most quietly radiant strengths is how it frames hope, not as naive optimism, but as a deliberate hard-won choice made in full knowledge of loss. Carol has every reason, years of erased memories, manipulated loyalty, the sting of being told she was never enough, to harden into cynicism or bitterness. Yet the story never forces her toward darkness. It simply shows her choosing light again and again, not because she's untouched by pain, but because she has seen enough of it to know that hope is the more courageous path. That choice feels earned through every small decision. The way she listens when fury offers trust, the way she lets Monica's wonder rekindle something long buried, the way she finally turns toward the stars without erasing the earth beneath her. The film treats hope as an active verb, something you do even when the evidence is thin, and in doing so, it offers a mature, adult version of heroism that doesn't require erasing grief to embrace possibility. And another layer worth lingering on is how the movie quietly celebrates the beauty of ordinary competence. Maria Rambeau isn't portrayed as a superhuman pilot or secret agent. She's a skilled, disciplined woman who flies helicopters for a living, raises a daughter alone, and keeps her home running with calm efficiency. Her strength isn't flashy. It's in the steady hands on the controls, the clear instructions she gives during chaos, the way she reads a situation and acts without hesitation. The film gives that kind of everyday expertise real reverence. No need for her to suddenly manifest powers or dramatic backstory reveals. Her competence is enough, and it's treated as heroic in its own right. That respect for the skilled, grounded work of ordinary people, especially women doing traditionally male-coded jobs, adds a grounded dignity that balances the cosmic fireworks perfectly. Let's also pause to appreciate how the film uses weather and atmosphere as emotional companions without ever overplaying the hand. The dry, clear desert night of the first crash landing feels stark and exposing, stripping everything down to raw encounter. Later, the soft, humid Louisiana evening around the Rambeau house carries moisture and warmth, like the air itself is holding space for reconnection. When Carol finally breaks free into space, the cold vacuum is contrasted with the warm golden light she generates, her own internal weather system overriding the external void. These atmospheric shifts aren't symbolic overkill. They're sensory partners that deepen mood so subtly you feel the change in your body before your mind names it. The way the movie handles the passage of years between memories is another gentle masterstroke. We see Carol as a child, as a young pilot, as a Kree soldier, and as the woman reclaiming all of it. Yet the film never lets any version of her feel like a separate person. Each phase bleeds into the next through posture, a familiar tilt of the head, the same stubborn set of the jaw. The continuity of self across decades is conveyed in micro-gestures rather than heavy voiceover narration or aging makeup montages. That seamless thread of identity makes her awakening feel like remembering rather than reinventing, and it carries a deep comfort. You don't lose who you were, you simply add more of yourself. Now, there's also a beautiful absence of competitive jealousy among the women. Maria never resents Carol's powers or her return, she celebrates them. Monica doesn't feel overshadowed, she lights up with pride. Even the brief tension with Minerva is more about professional rivalry than personal spite, and it resolves without catty drama. The film simply lets women be happy for each other's victories, protective of each other's safety, proud of each other's strength. No forced conflict, no undermining, just mutual uplift. In a world quick to pit women against one another in stories, that easy solidarity feels like medicine. Captain Marvel keeps giving because it refuses to sacrifice tenderness for scale, complexity for clarity, or joy for grit. It holds space for slow reunions, quiet competence, atmospheric mood, unbroken identity across time, and uncomplicated female solidarity, all while delivering one of the most exhilarating power fantasies in the genre. It's a film that trusts you to feel deeply without needing everything spelled out, and that trust is one of its greatest gifts. We're still drifting happily through this endless, heartfelt exploration of Captain Marvel, letting each new layer settle in like sunlight on a quiet afternoon. One of the film's most quietly profound gifts is how it portrays forgiveness, not as a dramatic, tear-streaked reckoning, but as a series of small, almost casual releases. Carol doesn't deliver a grand speech forgiving those who shaped her or erased her past. She simply stops carrying their version of her story. She lets go of the guilt she was taught to feel for her own ambition, the shame she was conditioned to attach to her power, the obligation to prove herself to a system that never truly saw her. Each time she chooses to move forward, whether it's walking away from Yanrog's final attempt at control or turning toward the stars with a clear heart, the forgiveness happens in action rather than words. It's understated, unsentimental, and all the more powerful for it. The film suggests that real forgiveness isn't always loud or cathartic. Sometimes it's the quiet decision to stop letting someone else's narrative define your future. Another soft strength that lingers long after the credits is how the movie treats ambition as something sacred rather than suspect. From the opening glimpses of young Carol dreaming of flight to the adult version refusing to dim her light, ambition is never coded as arrogance or selfishness. It's treated as a natural extension of curiosity, courage, and love, for the sky, for her family, for the possibility of more. The film never asks her to apologize for wanting to go higher, further, faster. Instead, it frames that desire as the very thing that saves her and others. In a culture that can still punish women for being openly driven, that unapologetic celebration of ambition feels like a gentle, steady hand on the shoulder saying, "Your hunger to grow is beautiful."